We're back, baby. Horns up, talking Texas podcast. Fisher DeSopoulos, DJ Nikki Snacks Crider, the Quan Cosby. Get your horns up because we're 3-0, heading into a very fun, exciting week. Those listening on ESPN 102.7 Austin, shout out to you and your families. Thank you for joining us on this glorious game day. If you're listening there, if you're listening on the pod, what up, Thursday, gentlemen? We're number one, but it is never a dull moment. It's not number one with ease. It's not number one carefree. It's number one with a little extra flair and a little extra drama. Obviously, the young Manning Arch coming in looked fantastic against UTSA in his sample size. A lot of big, exciting plays to electrify the fan base and maybe calm them down as Quinn unfortunately went down again with injury. He'll get the nod this upcoming weekend in game. Q, I want to, before we get into the vibe and the analysis of all the play, is this something you ever experienced in your career? Guy coming in, yes, top dog coming in, and there's a guy behind him comes in, and there's all of a sudden a ton of pressure on him to perform and continue the track that this team is on.
Well, it's just such a different era, right? The NIL era, and then let's be honest, the guy has a name. Sark talks a lot about it. He didn't choose Arch because of his name. He chose Arch because of his playing ability. And what folks saw when he came in and what we've talked about in a serious way, we're like, listen, we love Quinn, but he needs to stay healthy. And unfortunately, he went down again. And it was UTSA. It doesn't matter. You ask half these teams in the country who are playing, non-ranked teams that they're squeaking by. Georgia, listen, Kentucky's in the SEC, but they're not ranked, and Georgia squeaked by. And we saw what happened to Florida State week 1, and we just saw Northern Illinois just beat Notre Dame. And so there's so many reasons that the hell with who your opponent is, you have to show up and take care of business. And being ranked number 1, like you said, I was thinking about it, and I was like, Georgia didn't lose. I think for me, if you win by 1, I don't believe in an ugly win. I believe a win is a win, and they're still undefeated. However, the conversation at hand is who loses their starting quarterback, who's leading in the Heisman race, and their backup quarterback comes in and runs for 1 touchdown and throws 4. And even Georgia don't have that. I was like, again, I think their roster is very close. I think they're very comparable. I think us and Ohio State probably have the best rosters in the country. But where our edge is that our backup came in, and if Quinn had those numbers, he'd be leading even more of the Heisman race. And so that jump to number 1 in a game where they had a close week and stuff like that is just insane. It's a good problem to have for Sark. And so is it normal? I doubt it, because of all the things. You can't not say Arch without it, knowing that 16's on his back and Manning is on his back. But what you can say is he's just like Quinn and using those unbelievable weapons we have, because we still had 4 or 5 different dudes catch for touchdowns. So we've talked about that receiving group. We talked about Arch coming in, and neither one of them disappointed. It was a heck of a game, and they covered again, and I like where we are.
It kind of seems like to me too, we didn't even cover this receiving room enough. Like what they're doing week in and week out is just always defying the expectations. Like you expect a big game out of Bond, you expect a big game out of Golden, but then you get guys like DeAndre Moore and guys like Jonte Cook and Wingo that are just producing when they get the opportunity to get in there. It's insane.
That's it in a nutshell. We haven't talked about them enough because we don't have enough show. It'd be one thing if it was like 3 dudes like Worthy, my boy Witt, and then Mitchell. Those guys were phenomenal, right?
It was a trio.
The trio. But they're hitting 11 guys a game. Like that's just freaking insane. So we can't do it. And honestly, I think that's a compliment to where their culture is now. It is a collective thing.
It feels like an All-American game.
The right, read and hitting the open guy, and that's different, right? That's saying they may not have called a bad defense. We just made the right play from our standpoint, according to what they were going to do, and execute it. And so it's it's hard to say that one person. They're all absolutely freaking balling out.
Yeah, not to
Yeah.
mention we got 2 or 3 more coming in next year that are just as talented that
Well, or
are
even Gunnar Helm. We talked about him last year. I mean, and
yeah.
the dude looks like freaking Jeremy Shockey out there. And again, it's we don't. It's nuts how good he looks. He's hurdling dudes. It's just it's just funny, man. And clearly it shows the iron, the shower putting the iron in there, and everybody's just they're just balling, man. There's no way about it. So we can't highlight one when there everybody has 80 yards and a touchdown or two or three. So
Yeah.
it's
I
cool.
I have a question for you because we've discussed this between the three of us, and it's pretty much been the glaring issue since the start of the season. And obviously, it's because of the lack of depth and, of course, a big injury in our running back room. But what's your concern level, Quan, with kind of just the running back play in terms of just how efficient it's been able to run the ball? I mean, obviously the stats show that we're breaking up for, 150 a game, but there's been a couple of big runs in there from Wingo, of course, from Arch. Um, is there a panic level at all in terms of just the running back room for you?
Not at all. I'm gonna tell you why. When I played, we didn't have running back depth. We had some young guys. We had Chris Obanaya, who was a baller, but we didn't have a bunch of guys. So what you do is, even though it's charted as 65%, pass first, throw that screen,
Yeah.
throw, the bubble screen. Have you talk about the genius of Sark in that he never panicked. And it goes back to what we said from a standpoint of Baxter and the guys getting hurt early. That's a whole nother game plan. You have to adjust. And what he did was he needs to highlight a 5-star recruit in Wingo and let him take a jet sweep. Last I checked, that's what Xavier Worthy did in the NFL and got one of his first touchdowns. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
the creativity of Sark, on one hand, we're like, oh, damn, can we worry? On the other, it's harder to have a Baxter back there that we know is going to pound in that situation versus his motion before snap that they have to adjust to. And then a dude running a 4.3 run right by your ass and runs for 40. And so on one end, I would be if Sark wasn't the offensive mind that he is. He's
Yeah.
doing. We have a run game and it's not traditional, which makes it that much harder, makes our offense that much harder. So I'm not worried. And then last but not least, like I said a few weeks ago, when you have the O line that we have that look even better than advertised right now, it'll all work itself out.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd
I
say
always tell these guys too, like, let the pass game be an extension of your run game. And
mm,
especially with the talented receivers that we have that can create space and that can do amazing stuff with the ball in their hands, with Bond and with Bolden and Golden. Like all these guys are capable of housing, a 60-yard screen.
Well, even with Baxter, as good as he is, and Nick Saban himself said he was going to be the best back in the SEC. He said, man, this guy is that special. I saw him first. They still fear our receiver room more than they did Baxter if he's healthy. So ultimately, what you do with that is you go right at them where they're already peeing down their leg. They're like, crap. They want us to run it 30 times a game because what they don't want is Quinn or Arch throwing it around to some dudes that get open in their sleep. And so, and they, those explosive plays that are so hard to overcome. They want 15, play drives versus 6 or 4 or 7. And we have a receiver room and tight end room and even blew out of the backfield that can bust you for 40 in 2 seconds. And so that's, you go back to the national championship year that Sark was offensive coordinator, where he had all those Waddle and Smith and all those dudes. They were,
good.
they had, let's say, was it Maji? What is that dude name for the Pittsburgh Steelers?
Najee Harris.
Yeah, Najee.
Najee. I think he was on that team.
Yeah, he was.
But you know what they didn't do is run it 30 times a game. They
No.
they schemed up these guys for not necessarily Quinn is number one right now for yards under six, passing yards under 6 yards, but the explosive plays are still top 5 in the nation. And so you just again you scheme it to where your guys are you use more weapons when you do that, and everybody's happy, everybody's celebrating. You're seeing it in every world, which way. Now I will say Arch has thrown I think 6 or 7 balls past 40 yards, where Quinn threw that in 3 games. So I think they're different guys, and Sark lets them in on the plays or the script. and I think Arch likes throwing it down the field maybe a little bit more, but it still doesn't change the fact that I would if I can also run 20 miles per hour and create those runs with what Quinn can't. So it's just, I promise you, we have a lot of first world problems, and I'm loving what the hell I'm seeing.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
would
Go ahead,
no,
Ty.
go for it, Tay.
I was just going to say, I mean, the interesting thing about throwing down the field, if you do make a mistake, it's not as costly, right, as if you make one 6 yards to the line of scrimmage. So there was something we talked about last show where the internal clock on Arch, especially with some of those bubble screens, wasn't the same level of sharpness and acuity that Quinn has shown through his first 2.5 games. So I don't know if that's also a potential impact as to why Sark is willing and he's able to let Arch let it fly down the field. There's something I wanted to ask you, Quan, because I've been so impressed, and I don't want to pick on one of our guys, but I ask you because you have so much more experience and almost to check me who had the reaction. I felt like Silas Bolden was trying to do too much when he had the ball and trying to make too many guys miss. Did you see any of that? And if so, like the larger question, I guess, is when you were during your playing days and y'all were operating at such a high efficiency and level of competency, how do you maintain that focus and trust your repetitions and the work that you've put in to not try and do too much, even when everyone's telling you you're the best team in the nation, right? You're the number one team in the nation. Everyone's super talented. You've got a ton of depth, but when you get out there, you still have to play assignment football. So it's kind of a two-pronged question, but I'd love to get your opinion on it.
Well, Bolden, for one, is he's gonna make you look stupid in a phone booth, right?
Yes.
And so essentially, where you know my man from Bama that to transfer, Bond and those guys are going to blow the top off. Bowden has that speed too, but where he is, he's not a slot, but he is a slot. So it's almost natural for him to be a little more shifty in that. Now again, he's trying to do too much, but when we get in that red zone and he's one-on-one with that third corner, he's going to use those same moves before he get the ball, and he's going to make them fall down, and then it'll work itself out. So he's kind of wired like that. He wants to shake. He's quick as all get, quick and fast. And so yes, he's gonna do that sometimes just because that's what his mind works, and he doesn't like to get touched, and that's kind of the way it works. Now for me, yeah, could I make a move? Hell, my move might look a little more like Arch. I'm gonna put one on you, and then I'm gonna get north because that's just kind of the way I was from a punt return standpoint. And if you think about that, some people are like, we thought Bowden was going to be back there, and he will sometimes too catch him, punts, but he's a shiftier. He wants to shake. He wants to do that. Whereas, I know Coach Banks wants you to get him a first down. He wants you to get him 15, and he wants you to get north. And so it's just more his style of play, being a little more shiftier player. And that's where Sark is going to put him in positions to, because he caught him a couple of touchdowns too. He's going to put him in that position where he really needs that. And maybe, they're going to be over the top of Bond or Cook or somebody, and Bowden's going to absolutely destroy him in the slot. So that's more what I think. And now you go from a standpoint of being number one. We have a unique position of whether we're number one or number 100, people want to beat the heck out of us. They hate us. They hate our traditions.
Nothing changes.
They think we're spoiled. And so if you don't already have that mindset that you're going to get the best, and a lot of teams say, not to pick on a Baylor, when Baylor was at their, doing well in the Browse era, in the Matt Rule era, there's an extra like, oh my gosh, the pressure's on me. Well, when you come to this place, your expectations are so over, sometimes not even realistically, through the roof, that you just know it. And now it's just a matter of seeing these guys play, man. People, they're passing every look test. They look comfortable. The defense is flying all over the place. They've still only allowed 2 touchdowns in 3 games. They're tackling freaking unbelievably good. And so going back to a team that was number 2, thought we should be number 1 after beating Ohio State at home, you still can create your own chips. You still can say, nah, we still have perfect timing of being in the SEC because everybody's still like, well, just wait till you get to SEC ball. So we
Right.
still aren't getting and then our rivals are even more pissed off. Oh, this is stupid. It's the Texas stuff. How can you jump Georgia? Because A&M is more on their jock than they are their own. And so there's more than enough stuff to see out there to make sure you don't get that. And we still have a lot to prove.
Yeah.
And leadership. Coach is a great leader, but it blew my mind the other day. He said, "Man, I've never had so many leaders in the locker room. They
Mm.
have 6-year guys, 7-year defensive guys in Collins. They have guys that were on Bama who know how to work, who had a saving. There's so many levels of confidence, leadership. You have a Manning, you have a Quinn who as cool as the other side of the pillow. All those things on the field. You go back 3 years ago when we started this and we started talking, I was like, man, they look nervous and they're trying not to lose. No, dude, they're out there. They're just trying to beat the break. There's a getting mad when they score late and a player to player accountability being pissed off versus the coaches being more mad. And so that's why I think they can handle this moment. And they were 2 a week ago, 2-1. It's almost the same thing, but one is different per everybody's schedule and essentially the things that are thrown at you.
Yeah, I was looking at just the last. I was looking at the last time we were one, like one of the top team. And Nick said in our group text, like the
Oh,
last
wait.
time we were yeah, Nick said in our group text the last time we were number one of us was on the team, right? And it was when Toss was the punter. So I was looking at the team, and I was looking at y'all's record. First, I was looking at the schedule, right? And I was looking at the players and everything, and I think a beautiful testament to why we're number one. It's so much is being discussed of Quinn and Arch, and it is a huge story. But we've all talked about all these receivers. We've mentioned here and there now in the show the defensive players. And Sark. It's a team game. It's a coaching staff game, and we're not number one because whoever's under center. Yeah, it's a big benefit. But we're number one because of all of those guys and their ability to adjust, the ability, like you're saying, for these leaders to come in, Golden coming in from Houston, Bond coming in. It's like the number one is even more special in this day and age because these guys could come in, band together, unite for the right reason, and not do too much like Alex asked you about, and not step on each other's toes, and unite to really demolish teams. Like I was looking at y'all's schedule. I think the first 3 games, Quan, your senior year, you guys won like 52-10 in almost every single one of them. Like it was actually like I was looking, I was like 52-10, 52-10.
Well,
And
and
when Nick
even playing the number one team, we put 45 on them when OU, which took us to number one. So
45-35.
it's a mindset, man, and it's a good one, and I can see it through so many of these guys. And then the other piece that we don't get, we're the only people that give them enough love. Our O line, they finally got a sack on us, and again, one of them, it was gonna happen. Teams are good, and it was, but by the way, that was a freaking cornerback blitz. It wasn't even like
Yeah.
a kind of in the trenches type deal. And so complete team. Beck is still picked higher per projections than Quinn. So being number one has nothing to do with one guy. It has to do with what they have seen as an insanely complete team. They saw it the first week, they saw it in the big house, and they saw it again at an even another level where your starter Heisman Trophy leading winner goes down and the other guy comes in and just has some video game numbers. So it's a very complete team.
And plays, yeah. And like, but you talk about Banks, like, Beck's like in projections to go higher than Quinn.
Yeah.
At this current rate,
Banks
with the way
one.
Banks could be number one. Banks could be number one. If I had told you guys when we were doing this podcast after that Arkansas beatdown in the trenches, in 3 years, or 2 years, we might have the first overall pick. And by the way, he's an offensive tackle.
Yeah.
Like, what a testament to the staff to come in here and play their style of game. And again, just looking at, back in 2008, like when Nick, you asked like, hey, are you worried about the run game? Quan's senior year, the leading rusher on the team was Colt.
Was Colt.
With 561 on the ground. And then McGee and Chris O and Cody Johnson, all of them had under 300 yards about.
And that
all
year we went 12-1.
Mm-hmm.
And that year we played the number 1 team, the number 5 team, the number 16, the number 17, the number 10 team, the number 12 team in the country. And so we had game day 3 or 4 times that year. For sure 3, potentially 4. So it wasn't like we were playing some pansies. Oh, and by the way, almost everybody but Oklahoma that were ranked in the top 15 went and won their bowl game. Oklahoma lost the Florida National Championship because they're bleeping shouldn't have been there. But everybody played just. I mean, that was an insane year where the Big 12 had like 6 teams in the top 12. And so Missouri, you forgot Chase Daniels and all those guys. Oklahoma State was like number 11. I mean, there's so many teams in there. Of course, Oklahoma, of course, Tech, us. It was just a crazy year. So you think we didn't have a guy over 500 yards that year, and yet we went. So our scheme adjusted to our weapons, and then it worked out for us.
Yeah. Was what
That's
about
great.
like
Well, that's crazy that Texas dropped that far after suffering the loss to Texas Tech, because you're 1, right? Texas Tech is 6. You lose obviously like on a Hail Mary play to
Crazy Hail Mary play.
1 possession. Also, of course, the Blake Gideon interception, but like we're close to winning that game, and you drop to 1-5. Like in today's game, like if you lose into a top 6 opponent, you're number 1, you're probably dropping maybe to 3 or 4.
Mhm.
And so that kind of already doomed us from the start. And then, of course, you went out, and the best you finish is 3 against Ohio State.
Yeah,
So
it's a while, but now you don't like. Fortunately for the 12-team playoff, like Quan, you said no one might be
yeah.
undefeated.
We'd have whooped that. We would have won a natty that year if we had the playoff system.
Yeah, for sure. On the defensive side, did you in your time, Q, playing like we were talking the other day, and I think we're still on the fact that Barron and Hill are our 2 best defensive players, but there's like murmurs that Colin Simmons might be the best defensive player on the team as a true freshman. Was there ever a guy in your
Well, what
days
about
like
the freaking? I mean, by the way, that dude, he got some very natural. There's guys you can develop, right? And then there's guys who just have stuff that they come with it. That guy, his ability to rush, his ability to get to the QB and release, even not necessarily sacks. We didn't have any of the first couple of games, but to get pressure and throw them off group, because those guys are getting picks. Now, Barron is the number 1 rated right now per Pro Football Focus's DB in the SEC. Number 1. And oh boy, our transfer was, I can't say his freaking name for crap.
Makuba?
Andrew Makuba.
Makuba is like number 3.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, he's pretty dang salty. And of course, Hill led the team in tackles last week. And then it's, again, complete freaking game and weapons. And we talked about it too, but we lost 2, first and almost 2 first rounders, first and early second round guy in the middle. And but I will take it for some edge rushers and good DB play.
Oh yeah, 100%.
And it's because again, until potentially the playoff or something like that, what you're seeing, you're better suited for most of your competition with those. And let's be real, our middle is not giving it up like that either, but you're better suited with that for the long haul than you are guys, because Harbaugh's gone, which he's running the ball in the NFL too.
What have we been talking about the entire show? It's like you don't need, outside of that Michigan team last year, which you want to talk about who their number 1 thing that I associate them with, besides JJ McCarthy doing yoga poses before the game started, was their defense, right? Yes, they ran the football incredibly well. Blake Corum stayed instead of going to the draft. They had an excellent running back tandem, but that ultimately who their running back was not why they won. No knock on Blake Corum. He's incredibly talented. So is Donovan Edwards, although we shut him down. But when you look at the national champions for the last 10 years, the first thing that you're drawn to is the quarterback and who are the wide receivers, right? You just mentioned that with the Alabama team. And even though Najee, who was a first round pick, I think he was taken 24th by the Steelers, their wide receivers were king, right? So all of that to say, you're absolutely right, Quan. While we loved to stop the gap, that A gap, especially with our DTs last year who were beasts, like it helps to have those edge rushers and those DBs, because a lot of people, especially in the SEC, the way that offense is played now, are going to try and beat us over the top. Think about the quarterback play that we've been doing our Heisman rankings queue at the top of the week after we watch college football from the weekend. Nico I from Tennessee is playing incredible football. Jackson Dart's playing incredible football. Jalen Milroe's he's playing incredible football right now. We mentioned Carson Beck already. There are some really talented QBs in the SEC, so you got to be able to stop them. You got to be able to stop the receivers.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
100%.
I'm going to make a prediction that our staff next year is going to look a little different because I think some guys might get hired in other
Yeah.
colleges. I mean,
Jesus,
that's just
dude.
what happens when you put together a defense like this. You get calls from other universities looking to hire you.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, and I was like looking at just before we get to the game, the upcoming actual game, and it's great. We brought up, or you guys are talking about our DTs in the NFL, and it's amazing to watch the NFL talent from the Texas Longhorn community and be like, damn, that guy was instead of being like, that guy was a 7th-round pick, but he's playing well. Like, we didn't develop him the right way and put him in the right position. Like, how is he this good in the NFL, but we didn't get the most out of him? It's like, no, I'm getting calls from my old man who's a Jets fan, obviously a Longhorns fan. He's like, this sucks. I miss Tavondre Sweat on my team. And now I have to root against him this weekend, and he's kicking our butt. Like, he's that dominant. And like, it's him and Murphy are getting 70 plus snaps to start the year so far.
Yeah.
And Worthy's lighting it on fire. And AD Mitchell, if he had a quarterback who could hit him properly, would have had multiple touchdowns
He's
already.
been open at least 4 times for touchdowns. And boys, I'm like, come on. And his numbers have been terrible, but I'm like, if he could hit AD Mitchell, who's open a lot.
Yeah.
So to your point, our guys are very early impact players in the league.
We're about to see it this weekend with the Rams. Jordan Whittington's going to have a game.
Just
Yes.
wait till JB gets in there too. He's on IR right now.
Yeah. Brooks even played. Yeah, I mean,
quietly really
God.
excited that Andy Dalton's under center because when Brooks comes back, that makes things a little bit easier for him, which is nice.
Which is true. I mean, it goes to show you. And quickly, Quan, I mean, just again, before we get into the other game, how different, because it's such a hot topic with Bryce Young right now. And we are talking about our NFL guys. How different, really, from your perspective and your experience, is that game speed from NFL to college?
You know what, man? It's no different than what we're talking about, man. Does he really have the amount of weapons? And let's be real. Michigan last year, you have, Edwards that is still there. We shut him down. And again, we're very good, but they also don't have the same O-line they had last year. And so it would have been a different game, a lot more, probably more competitive, just giving, the national champions their due with the O-line that they had. And so they don't have that. They don't have much of it. The guy's running for his life, and so you combine that with their organization, and organizations matter everywhere. We're aligned like nobody's business at Texas, from our regent to our AD, to our president, to our AD, to our coach, to all of that. That matters. In the NFL level, it's times 10. I've told y'all a million times. There's one organization that I enjoyed. The rest of them were a little suspect, and it trickled down. And there was one that wins more than the others from that standpoint. Whereas I think Carolina, the owner has more money than the Vatican, but he doesn't know a damn thing about running a freaking, football program, and especially at that level. And then Bryce, it's very interesting. And you go back to weapons, right? You go back to what he had to throw to, his O-lines at Bama, his defense giving him 10 more opportunities. I'm not saying the kid isn't good. I am saying look at the last 4 quarterbacks from Alabama. I saw a deal. You got, Jalen, they even put him in there, and he's okay. Tua, unfortunately, can't stay healthy. The guy before that to back up, and then Young just got benched. And so it's something to say about talent. We talked about it. Kirby said it, and we've talked about it at the receiver room. Is not taking anything away from Quinn because he makes the play, and our O-line gives him the time to do so. And Arch did the same. But as good as Arch looks, if he doesn't have those 6 guys as options, listen, we always said this in practice. You have to be air. So when you're just going through, no DBs, no defense, you should be 90 plus percent on completions. Throw the ball, hit the receiver, make your layups. With the receiving core we have, there's been a lot of layups. Hit the open guy and let him do his thing. And so that's what the windows change, and systems and all the above at the next level. So and your old line's averaging 6'6", and Bryce is 5'9" on a good day. All of those things. Kyler Murray, their offensive coordinator, they roll him out so he can see, so he can make plays, and he's still doing it. So schemes, it's all the above. I don't think it's a Bryce Young issue. I think it's an organizational issue.
Okay. Good. Just curious. It's such a hot button topic, and like it really is the biggest topic right now in the NFL. The kid was the first
Yeah,
overall pick last year.
first overall pick, and he's benched, what, year 2?
It is funny though that like you brought up all the Alabama QBs. I think it's a very apt thing to bring up because Mac Jones is also not a starter right now, and I know he wasn't the 1-1, but like not many people are talking about that. And guess what? Trevor Lawrence ain't looking he ain't looking great, and that's the guy that Mac Jones is ahead of Mac Jones.
He's on my fantasy football team, so he's averaging 15 points a game. By the way, I'm into that for the first time ever. I've never played it, but
How do you like it?
but I keep trying to trade him, and nobody will take him. So it tells you.
Dude, no one's taking
Yeah,
him.
pretty sure he's on
let me say, yeah,
waiver
dude.
wire for him in
And
my
by the
league.
way, Trevor Lawrence, I do think his tools are all they're baller, but Trevor threw to a lot of first round receivers as well.
Mm.
And so it just those things, who you're throwing to, being the complete team. Another shout out to what UT is right now. It matters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's like going back to our team. Like, I think Quinn has looked. You could see his progression, right? You could see how he's gotten better. Arch, obviously, unbelievably athletic and unbelievably exciting. But Sark is was the perfect coach for this program. Like the perfect guy to come in and implement a genius offensive system. Like I'm always like, I prefer defensive coach first kind of guy. That's just me. But if you're gonna have an offensive mind in there, he better be an absolute, savant, and that's what Sarkisian is. And he's come in here and he just is so good at going back to the run thing. He's like, you know what? Yeah, the run game is important. You have to have a complementary offense, and it has to, be balanced. But at the end of the day, our goal has to be getting the ball into our playmakers' hands and our best players' hands. At the end of the day, like if they're catching the ball 4 yards out or on a screen, what's the difference? If we're running it up the gut, if the result is better. So he's so good at that. And plus, like, his redemption arc and our team's redemption arc, like, it all just is. It seems like the perfect story for Texas and him to have each other. In this game, obviously, again, it's like a UTSA type opponent. It's a Colorado State type opponent. It's an opponent where we're favored by 44.5 and the over-under is 52. So per Vegas, they're pretty much anticipating us to blank them again, beat them like 48-0. Q, we'll start with you. I'm going to go to the other guys. We've discussed a little bit this week, but what's something that you've seen that you liked but want to see more of, and what's something maybe you haven't seen that you're hoping to see this game, Quan?
Well, I'll tell you something that I like that is probably what you or none of our listeners expect. I like that Quinn's not hurt that bad. I like, regardless of the hype of Arch, Quinn has experience. Quinn, when we get to the SEC, I still feel is our best option for more success. And I want that for Quinn because he's put in the work, right? He came back, he's grinded. I mean, the kid's in the freaking tent, and I bet the tent was shaking when Arch came in because he took 2 plays and they both went to the house. And going back to what we talked about, even in Ann Arbor, freaking giving Quinn his moment, right? Giving him his moment to finish that game and not put Arch in. But that's it. And saying that we can't control that it happened, the weirdest thing about this is it is the weirdest perfect scenario for getting RC experience. The time frame we have ULM, we have Mississippi State. They don't look great to this point. And if Quinn does need that time, and then we have a bye week before OU, it could not have worked out better. He's not hurt that bad. We need to take care of him to make sure we have him going into conference play. We're getting Arch real time, and that's why he stayed on every level. We love Quinn, but Quinn hadn't finished the season with playing every single game. So Arch's like, I'm here. I want to be here. I want to ball out. So to get him these level games, that's not a Georgia, that's not an Oklahoma yet, that he can get that experience. He can ball out, gain some confidence, learn. Peyton mentioned that he texts him about certain plays and will send him some huddles. by the way, are you kidding me? Who the hell gets that? I mean,
Yeah, it's
I,
crazy
I'm
access.
getting like dissertations on reading a defense from that guy or my uncle
Yeah.
Eli. And so it's hard not to get goosebumps thinking about the position that we're in because it's like stupidly perfect. And we had a quarterback injury, but it's in the big picture, the macro level aspect of football and where we need to be. Um, everybody's growing in this freaking scenario, and it is
Mhm.
I laugh. I'm on Mopac and it's slow as hell and traffic sucks, and I'm smiling just thinking about where we are. So
Yeah.
it's pretty good time and pretty good situation to be in.
Q, were you
Yeah.
ever with Peyton in either Denver or Indy?
No, man, it's listen. I've changed my life. I'm living better because I got fired with him at Indy, and then I moved to Jacksonville when he went to Denver, and I'm just like, what the? All I wanted to do was win a Super Bowl, so I had the hat trick, and I had no chance because my team sucked. But
You
no, but I
You
did
had
get to,
one good year in Cincinnati, right?
yeah, we made the playoffs. We made it in Denver, but that was with Tebow, and
Eh.
Yeah, the
our
walk-off
defense was
touchdown.
really good that year.
The walk-off touchdown and then the wild
Yeah,
card,
that,
right?
and then
Against
get
Pittsburgh.
blown away again by the Patriots. So
That's a
that's
good. It's a good excuse. It's
Yeah.
it's
yeah, it
it's
was
as good as
Brady.
they get. I was gonna say, which would you rather have, a text from Peyton Manning or being whisper buddies with Matthew McConaughey? Because that's both of our QBs right now. It's either one or
Oh
the other. You
my,
have to pick one.
That is true.
that is, man. Oh, McConaughey, but no, man. And the cool thing is those questions, as we know, those answers are going right to Quinn as well. So they're better prepared than they ever have. Sark,
Oh,
as
yeah.
a brilliant mind as he is, Peyton gave him his flowers and said, "Hey, this is one of the best offensive minds in all of college football," which is what
Mhm.
I shared with my nephew. And now there's a synergistic aspect of, again, I'm telling you, I know I'm texting them and saying, "Hey, what do you think about this? I saw this. How did they disguise that?" So it's just, man, it is a good it's cool. It's all working itself out, but starting with one culture, two leadership, and then just everybody developing in this moment, getting through that Michigan game. Um, these are a few weeks that you can really grow. And as weird as it is, we were all hoping Arch got more time, and unfortunately, because of an injury, he is. But it's all in a good way because that injury isn't very severe.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. It's like and then again, it's like if there's no perfect time for a kid to get hurt, but hypothetically, if there was a good time for someone
Yeah.
to get hurt, this would
Right now.
be the 2 weeks for someone to take off and get
3.
healthy.
3 weeks.
3
Right.
weeks. Things haven't, and we've known that we've been doing the podcast for a while. Things haven't quite worked in our favor like this. Something bad happens, we're like,
You need,
oh,
but
crap.
that's what you need to happen when you're vying
But
for a
when
championship.
things
You need
are
a little bit of luck.
rolling,
It's a lot of
when
talent and a little
things
bit
are
of luck.
rolling, they typically happen like this, and so it gives you a little, it
Yeah.
gives you a little giddy because you're like, uh-oh,
100%.
things are falling in place.
Yeah. T-Doc, give me something that we've seen, that you've seen a little bit of, you want to see more of, and something you maybe haven't seen at all that you're looking for.
Well, I something I haven't seen is I'd like to see all of our guys play this game and come out of this game with the same level of health that they came into it. Seriously, like,
Yeah.
guess
Yeah.
what? This is an opponent that you just said we're favored by what? 44.5 points? Like, how about no injuries happen? How about we walk away
Last week
scot
was
free from
scary.
it? It was incredibly scary in that
I mean,
first
not even
half.
just Quinn.
It felt like every moment, every other play, there was another guy dropping. And, you just thank goodness Quinn's was the most serious injury of all of them. And we've already dealt with severe injuries to the running back room before the season even started, before we were actually playing football. So I would love for everyone to stay healthy this game. And with that, I would love to see Alfred Blue get back into that room and have a really productive day alongside Jared Gibson. I want those two guys to show us what we asked for this past week. We wanted a heavy game on the ground where we at least demonstrated that we have that in our bag of tricks. And I'm still asking for that. Like, I think that if it's Gibson with 100+ yards, if Blue's not ready and he's on limited snaps, that's fine. But I want to see our room singing, because I'm with everything that y'all are saying about our offense, and like ultimately you're right, Josh. It's get the ball to the playmakers and let them make the magic happen. But this is Arch Manning's first game as a starter, and I think that would be helpful for him. And he is a weapon in the run game as well. So getting that option play for him where he can take it and run, and he can make a linebacker miss or make a linebacker pay because they make the wrong read. It's predicated upon Gibson and Blue and Wisner making them pay between the tackles. So I'd love to see that happen for our guys. And yeah, I mean, when I throw some heat of players' way, I love when they shut me up. So it'd be sweet if Bolden returned a punt or a kick for a touchdown, and I eat crow a little bit. I'm all cool with that.
Damn it, Toss! You just literally took away what I wanted to say.
Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, similar to what Toss said, the Alfred Collins, Jaden Blue love child, Alfred Blue. I want to see him get in there. No,
is Alfred Blue? He's an old NFL
former
player.
Texans running back. Yep.
Also a running back. That's right.
Also running back. Yeah, you're close.
Also,
it was
right.
right.
I think he's an LSU guy, and that's why he's always in my head. But yep.
So Gibson, he's someone that we've seen a good amount, and I want to see more of him. And I'm glad I said this already. I'm glad he got his fumble out of the way for the UTSA game. Kind of wake up call a little bit that you got to tote the rock a little safer. But I've liked all the runs that he's put together. I mean, he's a hard runner, fights for extra yards, thick legs, just keeps him turning. And I mean, the more you get him going, the more comfortable he's going to feel, the more confidence he's going to get. So I need to see more of him. That's really it. And then something that we haven't seen at all that Tosh just alluded to, let's get some big plays on special teams. I mean, like obviously so much is going right for this team, but you can only control what you can with special teams sometimes. But like, the old Texas would only have special teams plays sometimes where it's like we're relying on the blocked punt or the kickoff return for a touchdown to really keep us in a game. And now, obviously, we don't need that, but it's nice to see good special teams at work. Burt Auburn hasn't had a ton of opportunities to kick field goals, which is good. He did miss a big field goal in the first game, but it is what it is. We're happy with what the scores look like. But I would love to see a punt return, a kick return, a blocked punt, a blocked kick, something like that, just to give a little bit more energy out there, because you never know when you're going to need those type of plays later in the season.
Well, it's interesting enough, too, from a punt return standpoint. I pay a lot of attention to that. And our defense has done great, right? But they'll get to about that 40-yard line, 50-yard line where you don't really have a punt return opportunity. You're fair catching it and you're going, far. And so I think it's a combination of two things. Defense done great, but stop them on their 25.
Yeah.
Then get a punt return, and it just complements every aspect of it. A great punt return, a punt block. Then you have a young Arch in better position. Or if you have one of those weird drives that we tend to have that stalls, then you got our kicker, with his fancy hair, booting one through and getting the work he needs for that tough game versus Oklahoma or Georgia. So it's all complimentary football. And as good as our defense have been, we just haven't really – we've done a phenomenal job on keeping them out of the end zone, but not necessarily of keeping them on their side of the 50. And so just –
the interesting thing, I think when we played Colorado State, I think Gus Johnson was on that call. And I think the first time they lined up to punt, Gus, fan of the horns, fan of the show, fan of the horns. I think he said a team that likes to block punts or a team that is really good at blocking punts, watch out for Texas. And everyone's always like, we want to be wide receiver U, we want to be DBU, we want to be RBU. I mean, let's be PBU, not pass breakup university, but let's also be that. But let's be pump block university, because I think
sick year.
Gus J is already trying to give us that mantle. So let's go get it. Yeah.
Well, but we've had a couple of years. We talked about Banks all the time and the way he changed very, very fast. Even when we weren't very good, we were creating stuff in those departments and blocking some punts and designing them. And we saw my man, what's the running back from Bama that came over? He'd come off that edge.
Right. He would fly in there. Yep.
Dude, he'd fly in there and block him a punt. And that's the cool piece, even going back to the question about our run game. When you just find other ways for guys to make plays and make an impact, that's checking the box. That's they can still go out and get them a good looking woman if they just make a play and get on the
Yeah.
jumbo tree. So I mean, that's all they want, man. Give me a chance, coach.
Yeah,
Hey, that
yeah.
jumbotron is big, so you make a play and get on it, your chances get up there. Augie Garrido said, "Women
Yeah.
get the better women."
It's hilarious. Yeah. I'll say, I mean, hey, going last. I think Nick said it a couple like many shows ago. Going last sometimes stinks. I mean, we're all on the similar page here. I was about to rip the Bird Auburn one because I was like, all right, like I want our Q, you had it, but I want our. He's only attempted 3 kicks. Like if there was ever a game for him to kind of get in the motion a little bit and like throw a 50-yarder out there, really get a shot 40 plus at least, and kind of stay in the motion. 3 kicks through 3 games. We're gonna need him at some point this season. We've all seen a gazillion football games. We just know how it goes. At some point, your kicker has to bang one through, like a big one. And so getting him like and keeping him fresh, I think, is really important. And on the notion of like, chicks dig big plays, like one guy who's been really just an all over the place player for us and has been our most ferocious defensive player and every bit as advertised when we got him as a 5-star recruit is Mr. Anthony Hill. And I would love to see him have a signature play. Give me something like a strip sack fumble, big play by him, get a pick, anything big, because he deserves it. He's done a lot of the hard-nosed work, and he deserves to see something on the stat sheet, and he deserves a big highlight play. So that's something I would really, really love to see on my end is Anthony Hill, come out and get his. And yeah, I mean, I don't know, like, and if you're like all the recruiting is going so well too on that standpoint, because everything is everywhere. Like the highlights, the arch highlights, the defensive plays, like the defensive backs making highlights, Quinn's throws. Like if you're a recruit and you're seeing this, even Quinn going, it just reminded me because you guys brought it up, like McConaughey whispering to Quinn, like that little 3-second clip is a massive recruiting pitch in itself. Like if you're a young player, it's like, yo, by the way, come be boys with Matthew McConaughey. Like that's like also that's something you can do at the University of Texas. Like it's like if I'm Sark, I would show that clip to like every recruit. It's like, oh, by the way, if you're ever one of our top tier starters and you go down, don't worry. Not only will we have the best medical staff, you're going to be consoled by Academy Award winner Matthew McConaughey. That's part of the pitch.
We might need McConaughey in the next. Sark might need to go to him and say, okay, let's make a couple more blockbusters here for the young kids so they can familiarize themselves.
Hey, you know what? We need to substitute Glenn Powell for McConaughey.
It's coming.
The torch because they know
his
movie. He's balling right now. But no, I know what you mean though. All of the above. You go back to even the Michigan game. Derek Jeter came to that game. Chris Webber came to that game. I mean, they haven't been to another game that Michigan's played. Like when we come to town and just kudos. Now they're giving them a lot of highlights to use, but the graphics team, the social media team, the marketing team, bro, they are balling. I mean, I get on there and I'm just like, this is just well done. They kept dropping just absolute Grammys and so but it gives them a lot. You had the Spurs at the game this week.
Yeah,
I mean, you have folks. You had Micah Parsons at the first game, Tyreek Hill at the first game. It is a place to be. It is the freaking place to be.
Q, let me ask you. I mean, do you know, like, is it just like a team at the staff that just like invites certain people like week in and week out? Like, all right, here's our guest this week, kind of like the Manning cast, right? Where like they have a guest list that they're trying to bring in every week. Like, how does that work?
It works in a couple of ways, man. One, we live in the best city in the freaking country. So these guys, they have agents. David Muguleta has all of them as clients. I mean, he has CJ Stroud. All these guys coming to visit him. Their charity events are in town. Then they come, and then we have the collective is a kind of a high level NFL. Jalen Ramsey. All these guys live here in the offseason. That's where they're trained. And so it's that piece of it. Then they go to our facilities and they're like, this is crazy. And then they know we're good. They get to know the guys. They want to support them. And so they befriend a lot of them. Tyreek, of course, is married to Kenny Vaccaro's sister. And so it's just this place has just become one of those places that it truly is a spot to be. They call Ricky Brown. They call people they call me. And we all like, yeah, we want you to come. Sergio Garcia, all the
Mm.
golfers are coming. We're like, dude, Georgia game. I wouldn't be surprised if LeBron's not at that game, dude. It's like everybody
Yeah,
and their mom is calling to try to go to that game. And so when we're on prime time, people show up, our crowd shows up. It's typically at the perfect timing, and it's why we're hated, because it's infectious. By the end of the Michigan game, there was a guy, and I heard a story. It was the funniest thing. He was yelling at his fans, calling them all kinds of words because they weren't cheering. By the mid fourth quarter, he took off his Michigan shirt, asked for a UT hat, and started yelling all of our chants. And he said, "Listen, I'm a Michigan fan, but I got to give y'all's due. This is different. Y'all have filled up a third of our freaking stadium, and y'all get it. And that's the cool piece about where our fan base is going.
that guy's a loser.
Yeah, bro, that's too much. That's too much.
We needed that humble pie, dude, because now our fan base is crazy, and
Yeah.
they're giving us love. And from a put it like this, USC is easy. It's LA. It's in everybody's backyard. The celebrities come because it's down the street. You have to come to Austin, and we have, I think, three of the however many F1 drivers that's going to come to that game at Georgia, and it's the place to freaking be. F1 is big of a global event as that is.
That's gonna be
Their
sick.
drivers are trying to get to the Texas Longhorn football game.
That's sick. Like Charles Leclerc just going to be on the sideline.
Dude, it is literally all in the works,
Lewis
and
Hamilton.
it's wild, man. It is the place to be. So kudos to the folks who are doing the marketing and all that. But at the same time, Sark and our team, they're fun to watch. And
What a
like
sweet
it
gig!
or
What
not
a
like
sweet
it,
gig that
Manning's
is.
name doesn't hurt either.
Yeah.
What a
I
dope
mean, like,
job
gotta
that
be
is!
honest
Like to
about
be
it.
on that marketing team and just being like, all right, we're curating the night for the Texas Longhorns that have an instrumental part in recruiting, pretty much.
Yes, dude, they're seeing it. These folks and these kids are more exposed to all of it. We didn't know a damn thing about F1 coming up. We didn't know about half the stuff that's going on around here, but they know it. They know it. And I will say this: we've talked about this. Taylor Swift going to the Chiefs games make them a little more global. The people that go to our games, that attend, that go watch, if they're in having a concert at the Moody, when they put that on social media, as much as our brand is what it is, it grows. And so that's really what's happening, dude. It truly is. And these guys, it's not like all of them are putting on, Terrell Owens came. He actually did put on some Longhorn stuff. It's not like they're all putting on Longhorn stuff, but they're coming and they're leaving going, damn, y'all do it different. Respect. And so it's cool it's in a good place.
Yeah, I mean, like, when we were recruiting, like, when we were in college, it'd be like, yo, come to the school. Like, you could, save the football team. Like, it's a fun city. Like, that was, like, the mindset, like, when these guys would come to our parties, like, realistically. Just realistically, like, that's how it was. It's like, yo, Kyler, like, come on. It'd be super fun if you came here. And now it's like, Kyler, hypothetically, it's like, Kyler, like, you'd be crazy not to come here. Like, you're going to explode.
I mean, when I was there, Chuck's motto was "Let's put the T back in Texas." And like, okay, what does that even mean? First of all, like, what does T mean? But besides toss, but like for real, like I know we weren't in the position we wanted to be, but like it was just admitting to failure. Like, hey, like we're down in the dumps, but like let's bring it back,
Yeah.
And then there was like those slogans where it's like Revolution 18 or something, where it's like we're starting a new revolution of Longhorns. But now it's like, come join the squad.
Come on.
Actions speak louder
the
than
was
words,
there when
bro.
Chuck was there, but he didn't know it and believe it, and he wasn't resourced for it. But that T is there, and when that T is there, and then you add all the things moving, the realignment, SEC, the 12-team playoff. It's why the commissioner has been to a insane amount of Longhorn games, not because he favor anything, but what he likes is good football. Believe it or not, the SEC realized now that they saw it when we went to Tuscaloosa. They've seen it now when we go to the big house. One, we travel because there was like a 2-hour delay from PJs that were all Texas branded. And then two is just it's people get it. Even those who don't like it, they typically don't like it because they get it. And I'm not saying that in a like arrogant way, in your face way. I'm saying it in a real recognized real. And we see that from Georgia. We see it from Bama, Ohio State, Michigan. The Big House was unbelievable. I'm giving them their due. I like that we won there, but I'm giving them their due. And so
sick.
the Blue Bloods, they just do it differently. And for those who go to a lot of places, suites, sidelines, they admit openly that what Texas is doing right now and the way they're representing and the extreme level that they try to be in first is not just on the field. It's in entertainment. It's blowing up the East Side suites and having $10 million suites with Jeffrey served in them. It's the city in itself. And so it's the drone show. I mean, it's Bevo Boulevard, Longhorn City Limits. So it's a lot of things working in our favor, and it's helping in recruiting. But at the end of the day, winning, being number one in the nation does it better than any of it.
Mm-hmm. And we keep talking about Michigan. Want that everyone that's listening and checking out, keep an eye on the Michigan game this weekend. They host USC. They have another big home game. It's there. I can't believe that's the Big Ten now. That's a whole nother conversation. That's bananas. But they host USC, a really hyped team. It's Lincoln. They got the new quarterback. And I want to keep an eye on that game because I think people are starting to count the Michigan Wolverines out. And to me, it feels they put the new quarterback in. It feels eerily similar to the Bama situation last year. Bama's cooked. Bama's done. Texas beat a defeated Bama program. Oh, wait, no, we were just ready to play week 2. Yeah, and then playoff. Yeah, we were just ready to play week 2, and we were prepared, and they were still getting their sea legs. I think this Michigan team is going to figure it out a little bit. They were too damn good last year. I know a lot of things have changed, but that coach, it's not like he didn't coach last year. He coached like 6-7 games.
Yeah.
So they had
4 turnovers
too much experience.
Their defense is good. I was listening on purpose because everybody's saying, "Oh, I don't know." I was like, that defense got, I think, 2 or 3 interceptions and a couple of fumbles last week. I don't care who you play. If you create that defense still is damn good. So I'm right there with you. I think they're going to win. The quarterback situation has to be figured out, but regardless of who plays in that position, I think there's still an 8, 9, 10, win season, and more would be nuts and cool to see. But that defense is as advertised. We just have a little something on that other side that's pretty.
We just beat it.
It's actually really it's a great comparison because they have 3 projected first rounders on that defense.
Yeah.
And guess what? Terry and Arnold, Kool-Aid McKinstry, Dallas Turner. Like, it's very similar. It's not the exact same position group, right? But the talent is there. And so
they're going to do it.
It's a great call out, Josh. So they
They
ran for a lot of yards last week.
And I hope we blow them out and we take care of business. I hope that. I'm a fan. I can say that. They got to go make it happen. But there's 2 games this weekend that are very interesting. It's that game, and then it's Oklahoma, Tennessee.
Yeah.
It's some games, and then of course the following weekend is Georgia, Bama. But Oklahoma, Tennessee we're going to learn a lot about a few teams this weekend, and it's why college football is the best because every freaking week is just something wild.
I saw Utah's playing Oklahoma State too.
Oh
yeah,
yes,
which is going to be a really good game.
Hey, dude, that's literally might be the first game of the Big 12 championship.
It could be, and those 2 quarterbacks, respectively, are 24 and 25. And I saw a side-by-side graphic with the Sunday Night Football game. Caleb and CJ Stroud are both 22, and it's like these 2 22-year-olds are playing in the NFL while these 24 and 25. Yeah.
What's going to matter though?
The guys versus the guys in the league that are younger than them. That's awesome.
It's going to matter though. Yeah, it's going to matter, that game. I think it's a great call out to watch, and I think we're going to learn a lot about Tennessee in a good way. Or maybe us, we'll see. But I think we're going to learn a lot about them in a good way this weekend against Oklahoma. Will be my 2 cents. Gentlemen, always a fire up. Always great to see everybody. Those listening on ESPN 102.7 Austin, thank you again for always listening and joining us on Saturdays. We'll see you on Sunday for a little NFL content. Fisher DeSopoulos, DJ, Nikki, Snacks Crider, and the Quan Cosby. We out here. We love you.
Hey, even when we're number 1 in the nation, we're still throwing our horns up because that's what matters.
That's right.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Throw up the
Get them up, baby.
Yeah.